Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and now I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. I'm actually kind of giddy to talk about this movie simply because I caught an early access screening, which means I'm getting my review out into the world before the mass audiences see it, which doesn't happen every day. So anytime it does, I get really excited, but typically I end up stumbling and not getting it out like too far before the movie. And today we're gonna do just that. So why don't you pull up a chair, man? Take a seat. We're getting ready to dive in, spoiler free, into The Dead Don't Die, the latest in the genre of zombie flicks, being brought to us both writing and directing from Jim Jarmusch. And I gotta tell you, man, I really dug this movie. Like a lot. I can't. I went in, and as soon as it started, I was like, oh, I am so in for this type of movie. And then I walked out, and I was like, oh, I'm so glad I saw this type of movie. That being said, it's not shocking that its RT scores are kind of mixed. That critics are kind of in between on this one right now because I don't think this is a movie for everybody. This movie is really weird. And it's very, very genre. Like, I think if you're a zombie fan, you should dig this film. But unlike other zombie movies, it's so genre oriented, I don't think it's gonna hit for everybody that goes and sees it. And it's also really slow. I came out of the theater, I was talking to my mom on the phone, she's like, how was the movie? I'm like, it was good. Like, I really dug it. But it's not gonna work for everybody because this thing moves about as slow as the zombies move. It's very, very slow paced. It's very methodical, and kind of because of all that, I think some people will be like, God, man, it's so boring. But if you are in for a genre zombie movie, The Dead Don't Die is where you want to be, man. This thing, I think, really pays nice homage to old school zombie movies. A lot of zombie things now are kind of more like the way that, like, video games and movies are going are more like just kind of action shoot 'em up games or movies where like the zombies are really dangerous, they move fast, they're crazy, the action can be insane. You go back to the old school days of zombie films and it was and a lot of this and and that's how zombies were portrayed. And you were like, oh, one of those things where you just kind of sit and laugh because you're like, well, as long as there's not like 800 zombies, if zombies are moving like this, you could survive for a while in the zombie apocalypse. And that's the type of zombies we get here. It really only ever gets scary for any of the characters in the movie when it's a massive amount of zombies. And the way they handle this film, oh man, Jim Jarmusch, you were just doing it for me in this one. You really just kind of set a nice playland for our characters, specifically Bill Murray and Adam Driver. They rock in this movie, and especially Adam Driver. Adam Driver is like the spine of this movie. Like, his character and what they have his character do, they give him some really, really awesome meta stuff. And there are other elements to his character in particular where it's like, you can figure out some things that are going on if you figure out what's going on with his character. And the way that builds, especially with his relationship with Bill Murray, and then ties Bill Murray into that meta humor at the end of the movie, oh my gosh, dude, I was belly laughing out loud by the end of the movie because they had this conversation in the car where you're just like, oh my God, this is so, so good. Like, if you're going to do this, you gotta execute it, and I thought Jarmusch executed it perfectly. I just thought it played so well, and it really just kind of helped in telling this story that feels very much like an homage to old school zombie films. So I loved all of that stuff, and I love that the zombies were slow, undead, kind of moseying through, lumbersome, and are really only scary when it's a massive group of them. And multiple times there is a massive group of them, and there was like one tweak. When they kill the zombies, like, it's not as gory as I think you might expect it to be. And I really liked what they did with it because it made sense. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then when there's like younger zombies, if you want to call them that, or freshly turned, it's a little bit different. I like the way that stuff all worked. And specifically, like I said, once you get like in and know that about the movie, this thing is all about the character acting and all about its characters. And it starts with Bill Murray, who plays Cliff Robertson, and Adam Driver, who plays his partner Ronnie Peterson. They are two cops in the town of Centerville. And it's a real small town. It really only feels like there are three cops in the whole community. It's those two, and then Chloe Savini, who plays Mindy Morrison. And you spend most of the time with Driver and Murray, and they're just so good together. I mean, it's very, very dry, and very just kind of right here. Like when I'm talking to you like this at all times. Like zombies are coming and they're eating my neck, and this is how I'm talking to you. And it's very much like that back and forth with them the whole movie, until you get to the third act, and then they kind of give them kind of some emotional lifts. Specifically, Bill Murray, he really kind of gets into it again in that car conversation, and it is a movie where it's dialogue driven for sure. Because like I said, the action is kind of, not crazy in what it's doing, right? It's like Adam Driver's got a big old, cleaver type sword axe thing, and pop, pop, like cuts off a head. Oh man, here comes another one. Pop, cut off a head. It's like that. It's not like, oh man, it's like boom, like crazy stuff. And the dialogue is just so rich, and the conversations that Murray and Driver have, it just works for me. And like I said, it's a weird movie, so it's either gonna work or it's not gonna work. But I love their interactions, and I love the way Chloe Savini works in there with the two of them. It's like we kind of get them together most of the way, but there's a good stretch where Savini is constantly either showing up or is part of what they're doing. And the rapport between all three of them, I just thought worked really well, and all three performances really, really solid. And then you get to throw in like a whole cast of characters that are essentially kind of throwaway-ish. Like you get to see Selena Gomez, and, Steve Buscemi, and they all have wonderful parts. Like the things that they do, specifically Steve Buscemi's character. He's a very Donald Trump supporter type character. He has a specific red hat on in the movie that doesn't say make America great again, but what it does say is what I think most people assume that's what it means. Really, like that stuff, the stuff with Buscemi works so well, and the way they handle Buscemi's character, the way the other characters reference or talk about him, just perfect. Worked so well, and it was a way for Jarmusch to kind of bring in some political satire and make some comments about where we are currently, without force feeding it down your throat and kind of making it enjoyable. So I love all the mixture of characters we get, whether it's Buscemi, Selena Gomez is, kind of like that typical group of like college kids on a trip that kind of stumble into a zombie movie, and it's exactly what happens. And their group is a lot of fun, and just kind of all the people we meet. There's some people who work at the diner, just everything that's set to give the story for, our three cops to kind of move through. That being said, there is one other character in this movie, and that, of course, is played by the absolute fantastic Tilda Swinton. She plays Zelda Winston, who is kind of come in and taken over the funeral home, and everyone's like, she's really, really weird. Like she's, like either Scottish or Irish or something out there. Like she's got this accent, and she just is really weird. Like she walks, and almost at all times when she's walking to a place, 90-degree angles. Like if I'm walking this way and where I got to go is over here, instead of just beelining it like this, she'll walk this way and then hard right, left, hard left, right, like. All that type of stuff is how her character functions, and then they throw in some kind of samurai stuff to her character, so she gets to play with a big old sword. Awesome. The type of character you love to see Tilda Swinton play. I really enjoyed her, and then her character, right, like I said, this movie is weird, has a really, really weird ending to her character, where I literally just laughed out loud. I was like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense without making any sense whatsoever. It has no business being in the movie. It's completely out of context. And for me, it worked. Like I said, everything Jarmusch is doing here just worked for me. I love the dry humor. I love the dry deliveries from the actors. I just love the character performances. And I love this zombie apocalypse world that Jarmusch creates. And I think the thing I love the most is the zombie apocalypse in and of itself. It is explained in a way where, like, at the beginning of the movie, you're like, well, that's kind of odd. I wonder what that's about. Oh, that's what that's about. Oh, that's why zombies are happening. It was so cool. It was a take that I personally haven't seen before in a film. And it allowed for some cool visuals, specifically with the moon. But yeah, like that stuff worked, and like the stuff they do with the zombie lore, really cool. I enjoyed it, and the stuff they do with the zombies themselves. These zombies are a little bit different, even though they seem very familiar. Like there's an element to each zombie in particular that's like one thing that every zombie kind of notices, and then something happens, and I loved that take on the zombie. Like, give it one thing to kind of latch onto, and it just kind of adds some interesting humor, especially as you're kind of going through some of these sequences, like as the zombies are taking over different places. It adds some really enjoyable, again, dry humor. I just think works really well for a zombie. Like, to see zombie delivering comedic stuff is really, really cool. And for me, across the board, The Dead Don't Die is a winner. And I think you'll get a lot of people that will say that. But I will warn you, if you're not up for a zombie genre film that has, really, really interesting uses of meta humor, and just complete throwaway characters and some weird, weird stuff, if you're not up for that type of movie, you probably won't like this. But if you're in for really dry humor and dry deliveries, and just really sharp dialogue writing, and you're in for a genre zombie movie, you're gonna love some The Dead Don't Die. If you don't come back at me if you go and see the movie and go, that sucked. Well, I told you, it might not be for you. So there you go, man. Those are all my thoughts on The Dead Don't Die. Really enjoyed this one. I thought it was a nice little gem, especially if it's in your wheelhouse, and it was certainly in mine. So now I want to know what you're thinking, man. Are you interested in going to see The Dead Don't Die? I know some people have probably gotten out. My theater was pretty crowded. So I know people have seen it. So if you have seen it, don't spoil anything, right? Because it's not out yet. But tell me what you liked about the movie, what you were thinking, what worked, what didn't work. Was this a movie for you or was it not for you? And as I said, if you haven't seen this movie, which most people haven't, are you enticed? Are you intrigued? Is this the type of movie that you would want to go see? And are you excited about it? And if you're just kind of in the middle, like I said, avoid it. Just don't do it because you might not dig what you're getting. But a lot of things that work in this movie for me, but I want to know, man. Leave me all of your comments down below. Let me know what you're thinking. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new here, well, come hang out with the old C-Man and, some zombie adventures. Maybe we'll do some Throwback Thursdays where we see the slow-moving, creepy zombies rather than these fast, scary ones. If you want to come along on any of those types of rides or adventures with me, you got to go hit that subscribe, then the little bell so you get alerts every time I make a new video. The C-Man's Cinema Sit-Down. I'm the C-Man. And I'm signing off. Peace, brain zombie. Well, I'll be. You guys are still here. You must be looking for some more content. Well, don't worry. C-Man's got you covered, man. You got videos like this guy and this guy. And if you haven't yet, and you want to come check out all the C-Man goodies, join the Cinema Sit-Down squad, man. Hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the little bell down below that, too, so you can get alerts every time I make new videos.